All right, y'all. Welcome back to post-pageant review. It's like, you know, that behind the scenes with the NFL thing with Shaq and Charles Barkley. Except I'm both Shaq and Charles Barkley. All right, what are we watching today? We are doing a review of the finals of Miss Cosmo 2025, which is quickly shaping up to be one of my favorite pageants to watch. We're going to keep an eye on it this year just because this is only year 2. And we have to make sure that they're maintaining this standard and maintaining this momentum throughout the year for their title holders. Okay? And we say title holders because why? Because they have a title holder 1, which is the winner, and the runner-up. So let's get going. We are starting out here at hour 3 minutes and 25 seconds. Okay? We're skipping all of that stuff, okay? And here we go. Who are we starting out with? All right, this is Miss Grease. She's okay. She's fine. I like this feather boa thing that they have. Also, their finale stage, I mean, a really great job having such a big platform for the girls to walk on. I think it's fantastic. This is kind of a beauty pageant queen dream, right? Is the big glamorous stage. All right, then we got Miss DR. She got a lot of pep in her step. You need to soften the smile a little bit. I am, I do this myself, right? But see, she's a little forced. There's quite a bit of tension in her face, which we get. It's finals. You're going to be stressed. You're going to be, oh, look, now we got a cape instead of a boa. Oh, we love this. Cute. Miss Ecuador was one of my favorites. I thought she did a really good job. So I totally understand why Miss Ecuador is here. Oh, see, that did her in. That did her in right there. The adrenaline got to her, and she didn't quite nail that spin the way that she should have, okay? And that's part of why, okay, now we've got Cambodia. We like Cambodia. She's a little cutie. Again, ladies, if you're going to be on the national stage, international stage, hit the gym, get some weights, okay? Lifting weights is not going to kill you, okay? And your joints and your bones will thank you when you're older. The bikinis, I think it would have been more impactful if they had just gone with like a plain white bikini. Adding all the razzle-dazzle to it, personally, I think just makes it a little too lingerie-like. Oh yes, and here's our winner. I like the flat shoe, again, because when you're walking, it gives you more contact with the earth and the ground. So you're going to feel more connected, and you're going to have less opportunity to have kind of what Miss Ecuador did, where she, didn't quite nail her spin. See, good eye contact with Miss USA. She doesn't show you the back of her head. And then we've got, what are these shoes? My goodness, Miss India. I know Miss India was a favorite, but she didn't hit it for me. Also, take your times, darling. Take your times. Take your time. Slow down. See, she didn't make eye contact with the camera. And in an increasingly digital age, being able to make sure that you're getting that eye contact with the camera is really important. Who is this again? I forget who this is, but I think that she makes it to finals, doesn't she? Isn't this Columbia? Something like that. Although you can see her thinking about her routine in her eyes when she's walking. Indonesia. Another little cutie, but I think as far as like Southeast Asian countries go, Myanmar had her beat. So, and you know, that just do be what it do be. Sometimes it's like that. She's cute though. I think this must be a shoe sponsor, because they've all got the same shoes or versions. You know, there's like 2 or 3 variations of the shoe. Miss USA had this shoe, and then there's that like silver platform. Miss Ecuador went with her own shoe, and I think, who is this? Brazil makes it, I think, doesn't she? Yeah, I think Brazil makes it to the top 5, I think. I don't remember. She does a good job. She's got a good sparkle. Decent walk. Is she going to plant it? Yes. She gets her turn right. And another reminder, darlings, you're not fish. You don't need to be, you know, like Miss Thailand. She's a little cutie too. Most of these ladies, I understood why they made it to the finale. I wasn't, you know, overly surprised with all of them. But again, if you watched my review of Miss Cosmo prelims, then, you know, I was very impressed with all of the contestants for Miss Cosmo this year. Germany, I was surprised. I was surprised by this one. Not that I don't think that she's, you know, not cute, but I don't think that her walk is polished as others. You know, it's not a bad walk. It's just sometimes you need a little more practice. And she does a good job, but little things make a difference, especially once you get into, you know, your, seeing like Vietnam, she's futzing too much with the cape here. If you can't get it done immediately, just leave it. Don't worry about it. See, like, she's just, instead of just working with what's happening, she's futzing too much with the cape and drawing attention to the fact that, like, it's not doing what she had planned on it doing, right? Good little swoop there, right? Oh, okay. That was maybe a little too preemptive, but loud. But yeah, anyways, if you watched my prelims review, you know that I was very impressed with all of the contestants this year. I was really impressed with the production. I was impressed with the amount of opportunity that they gave the contestants to, you know, walk various runways and do various fashion shows. I also think that since this is a Vietnamese tourism ad, basically, all right, Tits McGee. I mean, Mexico, a lot of contestants with what appear to be enhancements. I just did, there was a couple of years ago, you know, the 2024 Miss Grand International. Lots of assistance for Miss Mexico physically in that one as well. But yeah, see, she got tangled up there. She handled it fairly well. Isn't this Panama? I think this is Panama. She makes it to the finals as well. Very statuesque, and Miss Panama has a nice look to her. Very leggy walk. Excellent turn. Her facials need a little tightening, in my opinion. But good walk, and we know why she made it to top 5. But I think that Miss Cosmo they've done a really good job of, giving the ladies an opportunity to showcase themselves within the framework of shining a light on Vietnamese designers, Vietnamese culture, and, trying to up tourism to Vietnam. I think they've done a really good job. So props to Miss Cosmo. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what beauty pageants were all about, right? Oh, this is Myanmar. Who was it at the beginning that I thought was Myanmar? Maybe it was Cambodia? I don't remember. The Southeast Asian countries have really been sending some powerhouse contestants lately. We haven't done our simultaneous sip in memory of, or in honor of Scott Adams. But Cuba, she's cute. She's got a cute little figure. I like her little heels. Those are cute. But again, oh, we got our little Roomba por aquí. I like that. Okay, I like that. I like this little moment that Miss Cuba made for herself. She did a good job. Miss Zimbabwe. All right, if you are a naturally busty, jiggly queen, you should practice a walk that doesn't over-exaggerate that, right? Because you are going to be bosomy without the addition of unnecessary pep in your step, right? Oh, and Miss Philippines, she is our runner-up. See, Miss Philippines is doing a slightly better job than Miss Zimbabwe. Miss Philippines is very, she's very cute. But again, back of the head, darlings, it gives us that face moment, but I mean, Tits McGee, she do be. A little more blush than I personally like, but hey, it served her well, darlings, so who am I, right? Miss New Zealand was a surprise, but honestly, New Zealand, Germany, Greece, my assumption is that these ladies did particularly well in interview. And if you are looking for a contestant that is going to be a national, we're about to overheat here on the camera, but if you're looking for a contestant who's going to be a spokesmodel, then interview is going to be the most important part, okay? You can teach someone how to walk, you can pay someone to do makeup, but having someone who has natural charisma and is, able to handle herself well in on stage is something that's very difficult to teach. So I can understand why you would pick someone who had that and just needs a little more zhuzhing, right? But anyways, we're going to let the camera calm down, cool down, and we'll pick back up with gown. All right? Catch you on the flip side, darlings. Bye. All right, y'all. Here we go. We are part 2, Miss Cosmo 2025. And this is minute 48:34, gown finale. And you know what? We're going to skip through this portion because this is just all of the contestants in their gowns, which I think is a lovely thing to do, right? It gives the contestants an opportunity to showcase themselves in their gown, even if they don't make it to the finale. So, let's see. Wait, we went a little too far. Here we go. Alright, and a little further. These are all of our non-finalist contestants. And I think that this is a minute 54. Or not a minute 54, an hour 54. Alright, here we go. And the one note that I would have for contestants is that when you're doing a final like carousel like this with the rest of the contestants, make sure that you are maintaining your pacing, right? You don't want to leave too much space in between you and the contestant in front of you, and you don't want to walk right up on her, right? So it's part of practicing walking and having awareness of how quickly the contestant in front of you is moving, right? And then here we have Brazil with, one of my favorites, a nude illusion with beaded arm fringe, which if you cannot hear the sarcasm in that, then I don't know what to do for you, okay? Because, yeah, no. It's a no for me, y'all. It's a no for me. I do like that in the finals, Miss Cosmo is giving us a little blurb about each of the contestants, right? The only issue that I have is that the background music is, it's kind of overwhelming the guy that's on the mic that's giving us this little spiel. It's not a bad gown. It's not my favorite. It looks nice on her. I find these gowns boring, okay? I mean, most gowns these days in beauty pageants just bore the ever-living patootie out of me, okay? Bored. Let's see. Okay. All right, I should have had closed captioned on the whole time. Okay, so this gown was okay until she put these like little sleevey things on there, right? Like if you're not gonna do a full cape, don't put this like toilet tissue stuck to your shoulder vibe on there, okay? So, I have to say, frankly, I appreciate her, platform of providing resources for children in education, but it's Cuba, darling. It's a communist country. Of course, no one has resources. And I would say that being a communist country is probably what impacts your ability to accomplish your goals more than anything. See, Miss USA doing a great job with making eye contact with the camera. She practiced with her train. I'll be honest, I did not see Miss USA making it as far as she did, right? Not because I didn't have faith in her or, I didn't think that she was that great, but she just wasn't someone that that had shown up on my radar, right? I mean, and frankly, not that I have a radar, but I like this gown. It reminds me a little bit of like Marilyn Monroe's like Happy Birthday, Mr. President dress. they've clearly put like padding in the hips to give her a little more like curve around the bottom. Is it yet another like nude illusion? Yes, but at least she doesn't have a slit all the way up to her hoo-ha. It fits her well. It's not trying to do too much, right? It just is what it is. And we can appreciate that. Oh, look, another fire-themed dress. And y'all know how I feel about these slits that show your business to the world, all right? We know how I feel about that. I do think that Miss Columbia is doing a good job. Mental health, I mean, I get it. But her little speech that they're talking about with mental health, I mean, it's just kind of a mismatch of SEO terms and like, you know, basically saying she's a social media influencer and she posts online about how you need to take care of your mental health, which, great. Everybody and their mother does that. This is a funny little gown. It looks nice on her. It's slightly cartoony, and frankly, I think they should have left the fringes off of the, I don't know what that is, the like fringe stuff. You should have just left that off. The blue looks really nice on her. Honestly, I would have just done her all in blue, but that's just me. Oh, look, and it's a reveal. Miss Philippines. And then she says, oh, look, it's me in like a Venezuela gown. I do like her rhinestoned flower that matches this dress. I think this worked really well for her. Again, it is just a beaded nude illusion. It's not groundbreaking, but, you know, it looks nice on her. It's well fitted. I do think she would have been better served with that flower on the side of her head to, you know, pull that back and kind of show more of her neck and then pin the flower there. I think that her platform of mangroves is really impactful. We'll talk about where I think she lost it, because I think that if she had answered her debate questions a little bit better, then the title holders would have been reversed. And oh look, it's another beaded nude illusion with your hoo-ha showing. And the top of this is just, I get what you're trying to go for, but it just looks like a craft project, right? And Miss Panama she's too cute for that. She deserved better. Oh look, more beaded nude illusion. And if I'm not mistaken, this beaded nude illusion is one where like you can see the bodysuit underneath it, which like that's never a good thing, okay? Never a good thing. Yeah, so you can see her nude illusion underpants underneath here. Is this Vietnam? Thailand. Yeah. And this isn't bad, but she could have worn a much more impactful color. And it would have read really well on her. I don't think that orange and yellows are necessarily the best colors for my fellow Asian queens. But like, imagine what she would have looked like in a, you know, like a green or a really beautiful blue, or even like an amethyst, right? Like, she would have looked phenomenal in like a really deep amethyst purple. But, you know, who asks my opinion? No one. All right, here we go. We're gonna come out and we're gonna announce. So this host lady, I really liked this blue, like, paint abstract thing. I wish we had gotten to see the bottom of this gown. I think it's just fringe, but this is a really well done, like, beaded gown. I think it's different, it's unique. All right, so top 5, here we go. There you go, Philippines. Yeah, Brazil, we saw that coming. I cannot stand these arm things. It's just so, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. All right, we got USA. She did a good job. I think that she could have done like a blonde hairpiece that had more of like a Brigitte Bardot kind of vibe, you know, just to give her more volume on the back of the head. Panama we saw, but I don't think that Panama does very well in her onstage question, which, you know, shoots her in the foot. Come on, who is it? Who is it? There we go. Yeah. Miss Myanmar. That's our 5. All right, so we've got top 5, and you have to answer in English. And I do like that they're not asked the same question, okay? All right, so Miss Cosmo really is out here just stirring the pot to hell and back. They have Miss Olivia Yase. I think she was Miss Cote d'Ivoire Universe. You know, the controversy with all of that. And I think they have on the judging panel Paula Shugart. So, I mean, pot stirring, and I am here for it. Mindset about women that limits progress. Do we have the mindset that women aren't leaders anymore? So, all right, just to, you know, dig into this a little bit, I think that women are given enormous opportunity, and they have been, and they continue to, right? Some of the most impactful world leaders right now are women, right? You're talking about the first female prime minister of Japan. I think she's the first female prime minister. No, she may not be the first female prime minister, but, you know, you have a female prime minister of Japan. You have the leader of Italy is, I don't know if they're called the prime minister, but, you know, the we're going to call them the prime minister. The prime minister of Italy is a woman. The prime minister of Germany is a woman. You have, women in leaders of power all over the world right now. And one of the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize last year was the opposition to Maduro's regime in Venezuela, and that was a woman. So, there are women that are in extraordinary positions of power now and have been for decades. Look at Hillary Clinton and the impact that she's had on the global landscape. Or, let me look this up. I need to get her name correct, right? We don't want to get our USA rep to Ukraine. What was her name? Not Julie S. Davis. What's her name? Oh God, I forget what her name is. Hold on. Babe! Babe!
Yes?
What's that crazy woman in the Ukraine?
Christina Friedland?
No. The U.S. CIA lady.
Victoria Nuland.
Yes.
State Department 30-year veteran. She's run Ukraine policy continuously since the late 90s.
Yes, there you go. I don't know if you guys caught all of that, but Victoria Nuland, okay, she's been a representative in the U.S. State Department for over 30 years, and she single-handedly, some might argue, brought about the war in Ukraine. Victoria Nuland, all right? So to say that women don't have leadership power is just disingenuous. All right, now we go. All right, we're back, and I should have prefaced before I started just popping off at Miss Philippines, but part of why I'm going to be extra critical in the Q&A section and the debate section is because I think that this is one of the most important parts of being a beauty queen and being a beauty pageant contestant is this ability to be in front of people and coherently talk about issues that are important to you and the communities that you're involved in, okay? Also because beauty pageants, in my opinion, are a proving ground for young women who wish to have a large impact politically, socially, culturally on their environment, right? And on their, on a large scale, right? And so being aware of global and national and local issues is really important. Being able to speak on these things is really important. And also having a realistic view of what our reality is. And as I was saying, before, while I appreciate Miss Philippines' perspective and the fact that, yeah, she gets points because she did answer the question, right? Like she answered the question and she did give a coherent response, and she did say that she did give kind of a loose feel of like an action plan of like, be involved and, whatever. But the reality is that I think at the core of it, and this is something that personally I think as women, and especially as a beauty pageant contestant, because only in a era where you have an enormous amount of opportunity do you even get to participate in an event like this. So to get on stage and to talk about how there aren't women in positions of leadership, especially right now, is just grossly ignorant, in my opinion, or delusioned, right? Because we live in a time where a lot of women are in positions of extreme power and influence. And I talked about a couple before my camera overheated, but I went ahead and I have a list up right now of, this is on Forbes, okay? I'll go ahead and I'll pull it into the screen just so you guys can see. But the president of the EU right now is Ursula von der Leyen. Ursula von der Leyen, okay? She's the president of the EU, is a woman. The president of the European Central Bank is a woman. The prime minister of Japan is a woman. The prime minister of Italy is a woman. Claudia Sheinbaum, she was elected the president of Mexico, not this last election, but the previous election. She's also the one that received the Nobel Peace Prize in 2025 for her work in the movement against the Maduro dictatorship in Venezuela. Okay. Or no, Claudia Sheinbaum is in Mexico. The Venezuelan woman is a different one. I completely misspoke. Claudia Sheinbaum may or may not have ties to, cartels, but that's alleged. But she is the president of Mexico. Okay, president of Mexico is a woman. Julia Sweet, chair and CEO. General Motors. The CEO of General Motors is a woman. The chair and CEO of Citibank is a woman. Fidelity Investments is a woman. AMD Technology CEO, a woman. Philanthropy, Santander, another bank executive chairman, is a woman. Microsoft, the vice president and CFO, is a woman. You have the Bank of Brazil is a woman. The SpaceX president and chief operations officer is a woman. You have US Bank president and CEO is a woman. The Minister of Finance and Corporate Affairs in India is a woman. The CEO of Walmart International is a woman. The CEO of UPS is a woman. The CEO of General Dynamics is a woman. The CEO of JP Morgan Chase Consumer and Community Banking is a woman. The CEO of DBS Finance in Singapore is a woman. Timac Trust, another woman. The co-chairman of Disney Entertainment is a woman. The VP and Chief Financial Officer of NVIDIA, the largest technological company in the world right now, is a woman, and she controls the finance department, all right? The CEO, president, and chairman of Northrop Grumman is a woman, okay? The chancellor of the Exchequer, which is basically like the CFO of the government for the UK, is a woman. The CEO of Asset and Wealth Management at JP Morgan Chase is a woman. That's two CEOs at JP Morgan Chase that are women, all right? The chief financial officer of Meta is a woman. The chief operations officer at JP Morgan Chase is a woman. The chair and CEO of NASDAQ is a woman. The president and chair of the New York Stock Exchange is a woman. Like, these are your top 100 women in the US, and they're all CEO, co-founders, presidents, VPs, chief executive finance officers, chief operations officer of the largest banks and financial management and technology companies in the world right now are women, including the chief officers and C-suite executives of entertainment and media companies in the world right now are women, all right? So it's incredibly naive and frankly propagandized to say that women aren't in positions of leadership, all right? And it's also against women's best interest to perpetuate this lie that you can have everything. Not because it's a lie against women, but because it's just a lie. There's a reason why the men who are traditionally in these positions of leadership don't have home lives. They are typically divorced multiple times. They don't necessarily always have the healthiest relationship with their kids because they have to work all the time. Because that's what comes with having that level of power and leadership in a company. You have to make sacrifices. There is not a single person on this planet who has everything and has it all, okay? It's not possible. Life is nothing but compromises. And so to perpetuate this idea and this fantasy that you can be a woman who's in a significant position of leadership and power and also be a mom, a wife, and have a successful impact on your micro community is just, it's disingenuous and it's unfair, because life is, again, nothing but compromise. There's a reason why men in those, and like I said, I said it already, there's a reason why men in those positions don't have, they're not typically and historically as successful in their personal lives as they are in business, because you have to make a sacrifice, and it's going to be the same for women. I can say that as someone whose mom was an OG girl boss, okay? She made enormous sacrifices when I was growing up. When we went on vacation, she was never actually on vacation. Like, she would take time off from work, but she was always on call. Why? Because that is what her job required of her. To be as successful in business as my mother was, she had to make the sacrifice that she was always available, which meant that she wasn't always 100% present when she was with family. She had to take time out of her vacation to answer emails, to get on conference calls. She had to travel internationally and miss, time with her family for business, right? Like, everything is compromise. And I'm not saying that, you should do one or the other, but we have to start being realistic about what this means. And I do recognize that there are women across the world who, due to circumstance beyond their control, are subject to atrocities and injustice that I will never have to experience, I hope, in my lifetime. And we absolutely should be doing everything that we can to keep them from experiencing these injustices, right? But especially when you look at things that are happening to women in Iran, right? There's an enormous amount of injustice in the world, but to say that women are not capable or being offered opportunity to be in positions of leadership is just, you're just wrong. You're wrong. And as soon as we stop slurping up this propaganda that women don't have these opportunities, the sooner we will be able to move forward and actually make measurable change. Because you have to recognize your power that you have as a woman in order to capitalize on it. And we just, and that's part of what I think is one of the strengths of beauty pageants, is that the entire format of a beauty pageant is to hone the skills that women need to exert the natural power that we have as women, and the influence that we have over our partners and relationships that we have in life, and the reality that most every action that a man takes in his life is for a woman. And if you can get out there and you can learn how to harness that and speak on that and cultivate that skill like these young women are doing in these beauty pageants, then you're building a priceless toolkit. And I think that we just need to be more honest and realistic about the reality that we live in. And the reality is that we, as women, we do have an enormous amount of power. So, yeah, anyways, there's my little speech on that. Yeah. Thanks for coming to my mini TED Talk. Yeah. Anyways, and I have a whole spiel when it comes to, you know, like the whole world peace thing as well, right? Like it's just unrealistic. There's always going to be conflict because we're always going to be battling over resources and power in order to provide for, you know, the women and children in our lives. It's just the lizard brain way that it works. Anyways, on to Miss Brazil.
Artificial intelligence shaping the future faster than ever. What excites you most about AI? What concerns you? What also concerns you most? A inteligência artificial está mudando o mundo cada vez mais rápido. O que te excita, te entusiasma mais, te preocupa mais. 90 seconds to response.
Ciao Vietnam! I believe in everything we have two sides, a good and a bad side.
Yeah, you got it, Rover, sorry.
AI have a power to help humans working at home and have a personal life too. Eu acredito que nós devemos aproveitar.
So Miss Brazil, I think what hangs her up is her struggling with English. Because while they do give a translator,
Foster the women use and enjoy the AI.
but you should know going into an international pageant that you really need to have a pretty strong grip on English, because whether y'all like it or not, English do be the universal language. Okay, darlings, that just is the way that it is. And you can cry, but if you know, oh God, we're overheating again. I swear, y'all, I swear. This poor camera, it's doing the Lord's work. But I think that her inability to coherently express herself in English is what, you know, hurt Miss Brazil in this. Because I understand what she was trying to say, but I do think that you need to be able to coherently express yourself. Especially if you're an international representative, okay? Because English is going to be the language that you're expected to be able to speak in. So, yeah. All right. We may end up having to take a little break here, but shout out Paula Shugart.
Can leadership be gentle and compassionate?
We may overheat here any minute, but...
Strong and decisive. And how would you describe your leadership style?
60 seconds starts now.
Thank you, Paula, for your question. I truly do believe that leadership can be empathetic, compassionate, and kind. I think a true leader leads with heart. They lead with service. They lead with empathy. They lead with confidence. They lead with compassion. They put others before themselves, and they lead by example. I also think there is a time and a place for a leader to be strong and to be courageous and to be the fearless one in the pack. I've had multiple leadership opportunities in my life. I just graduated from college where I was the president of my sorority, managing about 70 girls. And there was times I had to be compassionate and empathetic to situations that our members could not control. But there's also times when we had to stay strong as a chapter.
So she does a good job here in addressing the question directly up front. And she also then brings in an example of herself being in a position of leadership, and then tying that into her ability to be Miss Cosmo USA, right? Which is a very, this is like a textbook example of how to answer a beauty pageant question successfully, right? She directly answered the question. She used keywords that were in the question that were asked her, and then she directly tied that to personal experience and how that would impact her reign as Miss Cosmo. All right, and that is exactly what you want to be doing when you are answering a question. Okay. And
My question to you is, in many parts of the world, women now have a voice, yet many still lack real power. In your opinion, what is the difference between being heard and being truly empowered?
En muchas partes del mundo, las mujeres tienen una voz, pero aún no tienen poder
so
real.
Miss Panama, again, her boondoggle is the same as Miss Brazil. She's just not able to
90 seconds starts
answer the
now.
question
Buenas
in
noches, Cosmo. Xin chao,
in
Vietnam.
English, and that's the whole goal, right? They told you need to answer in English,
Yo considero que
and she doesn't answer in English at all.
es una mujer poderosa.
This is a problem, right?
Good night, everybody. Xin chao, Vietnam.
Also, I get it, Sin Chao Vietnam, fine, it's cute, but it's wasting your
In my
time.
opinion, a woman with a voice is already a powerful woman.
Como una persona que tiene una historia de vida muy grande, me considero alguien determinada que ha luchado por sus objetivos de vida. Eso me hace una mujer determinada, poderosa y alguien que tiene una voz que quiere compartir con todos ustedes.
As a woman with a long history, that shows my determination. I consider myself to be a determined woman that has gone through a lot and that has a powerful voice that wants to share.
And she's also not answering the question, right? Like, the question was, what's the difference between being heard and being impactful or empowered, right?
Simplemente eso te hace una persona poderosa. No hay diferencia entre ser escuchada.
So not only did she not answer in English, she's not answering the question, which, first rule, all right, we overheated, we'll pick back up.
Just raising your voice is
Okay, we're back. We were with Miss Panama and her
powerful.
not
I think there is no
answering the
difference
question.
that any woman who is heard dares to raise her voice and voice her opinions is already
and
a powerful woman.
you can, like, yes, raising your voice and being heard is a form of power, but really the difference between being heard and having power is whether you go out and you do anything with it, right? Like, anybody can have a TikTok, anybody can have a YouTube. I'm a great example of that, right? But you have to go out and you have to do something.
Mr. Ali Aslan.
Another commercial. My apologies, darlings, for being a peasant and
Hello, Miss Myanmar.
not
Congratulations
having
on making it
YouTube
so
Pro.
far.
Thank you so much.
We are faced with a paradox in a world that is increasingly connected. Why do you think people still feel increasingly divided?
Thank you so much for your questions. So I believe that people have their own insecurities. So during the insecurities, they have something that is really unclear about what's the purpose of that thing. I don't really know how the this is going on, but I try to communicate. And also, I believe that people please stay positive, whether they are good or not. It is the good option for everyone because a person that have a good side and then a bad side, but during that time, please be more communicative. Thank you so much.
So she's doing her best. Okay, Miss Myanmar is doing her best. I'm going to give Miss Myanmar the benefit of the doubt that she would have been able to answer that if it had been in her first language rather than English. But again, hey, they expect you to answer in English. If you are going to compete in Miss Cosmo, you need to expect that. But yeah, anyways, all right, we're going to skip through all of this BS and we're going to get down here to the real action. Okay.
Can't hear you. Get louder.
All right.
Hi, let me help you.
Oh, yes, yes.
To our top 5.
All this tension.
Of Miss Cosmo 20.
Blah, blah, blah,
And I
blah,
will
blah,
give the
blah.
honor. The first spot in our top 2 goes to Miss Cosmo, United States of America.
Yep. So USA, and we also know that it goes to Philippines. Why? Because they're really the only two that actually answered the question. Okay. So, thank you. Oh, gosh. Really? Come here. Come here. Come here. Come up. Come up.
Congratulations, ladies.
All right. Say hello.
USA and Philippines.
There we go.
And a big thank you to our other 3 delegates on stage now on the top 2 for the Miss Cosmo 2025.
All right. There we go. So they made it to the top 2 because
In this segment,
they were the only ones that answered the question. Okay. So now we're going to have the debate, which I really like. I like this a lot. I think it gives the contestants an opportunity to state their purpose and a little bit more about themselves. Also, it shows whether you can perform under pressure. And the debate also is a continuation of that, right? Like, are you capable of being in a high pressure situation, listening, paying attention, and then interacting with another person, right, in a spontaneous and improvisational way? All right.
It's to raise awareness, raise funds, reach survivors, and reach families struggling with this treacherous disease. After witnessing my own family members, my aunt this past May undergoing a double mastectomy.
So Miss USA does a good job of speaking about something that, and I think that's one of the things that Philippines and USA had in common in their personal speech, is that they both picked actionable what causes that they have both spent time and effort in developing and raising funds for, or putting effort towards, right? And it's something that's universal, right? It's not this amorphous world peace that we saw in Miss what is it? Miss Grand International 2024, right? She's giving tangible, actionable things that she is capable of doing, that she is saying she has already done, and it's something that she has a personal connection to.
And now that Miss Cosmo USA has told us and given us her action plan, it is now time for Miss
So they're calling it an action plan.
to ask a question. Miss Cosmo Philippines, your question, please. Your 45 seconds starts now.
And I would just like to commend your advocacy and your action plan, but I am just curious, what if unfortunately you cannot collect funds for your advocacy? order for your advocacy to succeed?
I think this was a really good question by Miss Philippines, right? What if you're faced with a position where you aren't able to do as much as you thought you would, right?
This past year, not only did I help in raising over $20,000, but collectively with the organization I partner with, we have raised over $30 million for the generation of cancer. It is a disease that touches so many people that when people are able to give, they find the desire, the need. I have, in a college campus, college town, helped raise over $20,000 with fraternities, sororities, kids on campus, college students that are struggling, because it doesn't just impact a few, it impacts everyone.
So she does a really good job. This right here is why Miss USA won, okay? Because you can tell that she is, she is running on adrenaline. She is excited. She is, in a, high stress position, but she's still able to collect herself and answer in a way that gives, examples of basically situations where she's already done this work, right? Like she's already been in a position where she has had to try and raise money. She's already partnering with a larger organization that has, raised funds.
To more than 7,000 beautiful islands. However, with that beauty comes an ugly truth. We face extreme flooding, harsh calamities, and natural disasters. That's why my advocacy, Paradise of the Mangroves Reforestation Project, aims to address both natural problem and economic problem. In this action plan, we are planning to plant 5,000 propagules in 1 hectare, and that would be set in the municipality of Libak, province of Sultan Kudarat.
So I think that Miss Philippines, the mangroves is actually a really great platform, and it is something that could be spread globally because the Philippines are not the only island chain in the world. They're not the only coastal erosion zone in the world, and you can see where mangroves have been eliminated in other other regions across the globe and what kind of ecological impact that has had in other areas. So I think that her action plan is really strong, and it's another one kind of like Miss USA where it has the potential to have a global impact. But you will see in a minute where I think that Miss Philippines lost, and it's because she wasn't prepared to answer how to take this global, right? And it's not that it's not possible, right? Like I know for a fact that in the US, there's an enormous amount of loss of mangroves, and there are already organizations in the United States, in Florida and along the Gulf Coast, that are doing the exact same thing that she's talking about doing in her home country of the Philippines, which is replanting and regrowing mangrove forests to help with coastal erosion and the economic impact of natural disasters after mangroves have been removed. I know that this is also something that impacts India. It impacts, I think there are places in China, there's places all across the globe, basically, where you have coastal erosion, especially in more, equatorial regions where this would be a really useful action plan for a lot of different regions and ecological zones. But unfortunately, Miss Cosmo gets caught up with the question that Miss Cosmo asks right now.
Your 45 seconds starts right now. Well, Miss Cosmo Philippines, I greatly enjoyed listening to your project at Green Summit. I know you're very passionate about it, but my question lies in, it sounded at Green Summit and now like it's predominantly based in the Philippines. Is it able to be enacted on a global scale, and is it able to have global support? Are you able to rally cause across the world, or is it a problem that only touches in the Philippines alone? Yeah.
And this
Thank
is
you very
where Miss
much,
Philippines
Miss
lost.
Cosmo USA.
Because
Of course,
it
to
is,
answer,
in my
you have
opinion,
60
a
seconds,
global
Miss
cause
Cosmo
that could be
Philippines.
enacted globally. But
Well,
Miss
honestly, I
Philippines
started my
just
advocacy
doesn't,
since
she doesn't do a good
2019,
job
and I
answering
have been
this.
to different cities and provinces to plant more mangroves or borobucks.
Because she
Not
still
just
only
in the
talks about,
province of Mindanao. I
she still
started
only
in
talks
the
about the
city of Hope,
Philippines.
which is the Tacloban City, Philippines, and also in Sorsogon province. But I believe that I should start in my country, since I really started it in 2019. But I believe through our collective efforts, with the help of local government units, with the help of NGOs and private sectors, I know that my advocacy would go a long way and definitely be in the global. So I hope that you continue to help me in this and build more.
So I also hope
mangroves
that
in the
people
future.
help Miss Philippines, and I
Miss
do think
Cosmo
that,
Philippines!
and frankly, I mean, I think Miss USA knew she won in that moment. But yeah, so that's my notes for Miss Philippines, is that I think Miss Philippines, even with her advocacy plan, I think she had just as much opportunity to win the title as Miss USA. The issue was that Miss Philippines clearly had not thought about taking her action plan to a global scale, because if she had, then this wouldn't be a thing, right? Are you telling me that my mic wasn't on this whole time? I'm so miffed, y'all. So miffed. All right. I guess we're just gonna have to. We're really gonna have to start over. And we're back. Okay, so we have the mic back on for our little recap here at the end of Miss Cosmo. We're not going to refilm that last little segment. You're just going to have to deal with different audio in that segment versus this one, okay? So, hey, look at all this. I mean, and it is really, beneficial for Miss USA that there's also a cancer screening, you know.
By Cosmo Bird's Nest. Green and smart mobility services by
So, I think it's great that they do a whole little, this is what the prize package thing is. I think that's a really good idea.
Perfume purchasing voucher valid at all Miss Saigon premium perfume stores. Fine dining experiences at Nang Tam Restaurant. Tripolar Stop VX2 professional facial rejuvenation device for home use. Exclusive servants experience package from Reva Cruise.
There we go. And let's see if we can get through here. All right. Again, my peasant ass and my commercials. All right, let's see. We'll get rid of closed captions. Here we go. Oh, look at all the contestants. Wow. Okay. And
Greece. Next up is the Cosmo Beauty Icon.
yeah, Panama gets beauty icon. Lao. I like that they do a lot of other awards outside of just your finalists. I think it gives the rest of the contestants an opportunity to
Well, the evening, as you know, is a Cosmo People's Choice Award, and that one
get
goes to
something,
Miss
right?
Cosmo.
And to get recognition for the hard work that they put in. I think it's a really great thing to have a lot of preliminary awards.
Miss Cosmo 2025.
And you know what, speaking of preliminary awards, I think that
Our esteemed representatives from
I think
the
that
sponsor.
Miss America does this really well.
Please,
People's
big round Cosmo 20.
congratulations. We cannot reputable with it.
All right, there we go. They're getting their awards. Way to go.
Award
Lord,
goes to
honoring us for your impactful work and all that you do, and a big thank you, of course,
back to the
backstage.
Go.
But now, moment of
I have just received
but I think you need a little bit of
the
space.
most happiest one.
The one we've always close to Miss Cosmo.
Oh, and wait, before we go any further, this is gonna be real controversial, but you know what? I don't care, okay? So I believe earlier in the evening they allowed Netherlands to have a solo walk despite not making it to the finals, because Netherlands is trans. And darlings, stop, okay? Just because you're a man in a dress doesn't mean that you ought to get a special highlight moment on stage out of the rest of, 100 and some contestants, all right? It doesn't make you special, all right? At least it ought not, okay? Especially in the context of a beauty pageant. Like, first of all, I clocked that, all right? And most women will. And the whole point of being a trans beauty pageant contestant is that we shouldn't be able to clock you. And you don't get a magic moment on stage just because you're a man in a dress. Okay? Like, what are we doing, y'all? Like, Netherlands didn't make it to the finals, and however many other contestants also didn't make it to the finals, but somehow Netherlands deserves a little, shiny, sparkly finals night moment just because they're a man in a dress. Babies, we're not okay with that, okay? Not in this house.
Be crowned our brand.
If you want to compete and the pageant allows you to compete, fine. That's up to the organization, right? But I don't think it's fair to the other ladies that competed and didn't make it to finals for that one contestant to get a little shiny, sparkly moment because they're a different gender. Okay? Like, that's no. It's not cool. All right? Like,
What the year of their reign will bring to us.
let's not do that again.
To the Cosmo world.
All right. Here we go.
Top two, please move. Symbol. Miss Cosmo.
There they go.
Action plan. Cosmo 2025. Won't stand the runner-up.
And I do love Miss USA's like matchy nails with her gown. It's very nice.
Cosmo family.
I don't think either one of these gowns is particularly groundbreaking, but here we go. Bada bada bee. We know how this ends.
The wait. Gentlemen.
There you go. It's Miss USA. And I mean, based off of the action plan and debate round, it wasn't a question. It wasn't a question. But Miss Philippines, because this is Miss Cosmo, Miss Philippines gets her own little, crown. She gets her runner-up crown, and she gets to spend the year with Miss Cosmo. Okay, so being the runner-up at Miss Cosmo is, it ain't terrible, y'all. It ain't terrible. You can tell the Miss Philippines is not happy about it though. But I think a lot of that also is because Miss Philippines had a lot of hype going into the contest. She had a lot of like online hype for her. Rachel, my last little clip there cut out because a secondhand camera decided to overheat again, because that's just, it do be what this camera does. Okay, hold on, I'm fussing with this nonsense and just making a hash of it. But anyways, that was the finals post-pageant review of Miss Cosmo 2025, which again, the recap of the whole thing, honestly, shout out to Miss Cosmo, shout out to their production team, shout out to the contestants. I think that being in its second year, Miss Cosmo is really showing just basically like what a modern pageant can be, right? And so fantastic. My flowers to Miss Cosmo. Cannot wait to see what you do with the winners this year, and how next year goes on. You should, bump up that age range a little bit so us old ladies can possibly compete. But overall, I think it was a great pageant. I think they do a really good job of focusing on the contestants. I think they do a really good job of requiring a high level of competency from their contestants. And I think they did a great job. And shout out to Miss USA for her inaugural win as Miss Cosmo. Final notes for me for pageant girlies is pay attention when you are competing in a pageant and do your homework. Find out what they are wanting from a contestant. And the most important part to me is practice. You do not get good at this just by waking up and being beautiful in the morning, okay? It takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of dedication to become someone who has a well-rounded set of experiences and interests that you are capable of speaking about on a global platform, okay? And you see that with Miss Cosmo specifically, that is something that they are looking for, right? They want a title holder who has a proven track record of being involved in the community and being able to get onto a public platform and speak in a clear and coherent way. It is very important, based off of who they have chosen as their winners and their runner-ups, that you are able to get up there and speak publicly, okay? And what does that mean? That means that you need to have an answer to the question, not just a bunch of fluff SEO terms pulled into what sounds good but doesn't actually answer a question, okay? You need to have answers, and you need to have demonstrable examples of how you have managed to already accomplish that in your personal life leading up to this, right? You need to know your personal resume. You need to have a personal resume. It's not just enough to have, 1 million followers on social media. That doesn't mean you are capable of having an impact. Anybody and their mother has 1 million followers on social media. It's not enough, all right? So go out there, be an impact in your community, make a difference, decide who you want to be today, and be somebody, do something, have action. Don't just, don't be me. Don't just sit behind your camera and talk about it. Go do it. Go be the change that you want to see in your communities, okay? Go be the change that you want to see in the world, because that's how you're going to make a demonstrable difference, all right? So classy, not trashy, ladies. Get out there, make good choices, and don't trust anybody. because it doesn't get any better than this. All right, you guys, catch you on the flip side.